After completing my medical education, I secured a position as an ambulance driver. Initially, my intention was to work temporarily in this role until a doctor's position became available. However, as time went on, I found myself growing accustomed to the job and became content with the way things were. Despite the challenges, both physical and psychological, that accompanied the profession, constantly witnessing suffering and pain, I formed meaningful connections with my colleagues and had no desire to leave them behind. Residing in a quaint village, I inherited my grandfather's house, which became my own. I dedicated my spare time to renovating and restoring it, hoping to complete it swiftly and share the space with a partner someday. Unfortunately, due to my demanding work schedule, I had never had the opportunity to cultivate a romantic relationship. My insecurities and self-doubts often held me back from approaching anyone of interest. However, fate took an unexpected turn one fateful day during a routine call. There, lying in bed, was a delicate young woman, unable to move due to a serious leg injury. As informed by the doctors present, she lacked the ability to walk unassisted. Since there were no other male staff members available that day, I stepped forward and volunteered to help. With my own hands, I carefully lifted her from the bed and carried her out of the house. In that moment, as her weight rested in my arms, the entire world faded away, and an indescribable feeling of love at first sight washed over me. As I gazed into her eyes, a profound sense of protection washed over me, and I knew deep within that I wanted to safeguard her for the rest of our lives. However, to win her affection, I had to shed my shyness and step forward. Natasha's injury was intricate, keeping her hospitalized for an extended period. During her time there, I made frequent visits, bringing her an assortment of fruits and delicate flowers. Although she sensed my love for her, her responses remained somewhat distant. Thankfully, my colleagues offered unwavering support, encouraging my efforts and endeavors. A month passed, and Natasha was finally discharged, allowing me to continue my courtship beyond the confines of the workplace. It was an arduous journey as Natasha remained guarded, keeping me at a distance for a considerable length of time. It took an entire year of unwavering dedication and persistence to eventually thaw her heart. Even as we began dating, uncertainty lingered within me, propelling me to strive relentlessly to secure her affections. Finally, the moment of truth arrived, and I mustered the courage to propose. Initially, Natasha declined my advances on a couple of occasions, but on the third attempt, she uttered the long-awaited yes. Following our joyous wedding ceremony, Natasha swiftly conceived, and our son came into the world. It was then that the realization dawned upon me. I had indeed found the family I had always yearned for. My beloved spouse effortlessly managed our household and devotedly cared for our son while I pursued my professional endeavors. The fragrance of delicious meals filled our home, and everything remained impeccably clean, ensuring that I seldom needed to work late hours. I was perplexed by my wife's lack of intimacy towards me, and I couldn't comprehend the reason behind it. Each time she rejected my advances, it became increasingly unbearable. Unable to endure it any longer, I mustered the courage to confront her directly. Unfortunately, her response was far from satisfactory. Natasha confessed that while she held deep affection for me, it was more akin to kinship than passionate love. Hearing those words from my wife's lips was an excruciating experience. I withdrew emotionally and began immersing myself in work, seeking solace in longer hours away from home. However, after a month of self-reflection, I realized that I couldn't give up on our relationship. I resolved to win her love once again. We started to spend more quality time together, frequently indulging in vacations by the sea, dining out in restaurants and cafes. I showered her with gifts, flowers, and provided assistance with household chores. I also took our son off her hands more often to ensure she had time to rest. Gradually, I started noticing a positive change in my wife's attitude towards me. She began expressing her gratitude with increased affection, leaving me astounded. During this time, Natasha pursued a second degree in law, as she had grown dissatisfied with her job as a cab dispatcher. Her determination to become a lawyer was unwavering, and she invested her utmost efforts to secure a job in her chosen profession. Once she obtained her degree, she swiftly embarked on her new career, which left me somewhat disheartened. From that point forward, Natasha underwent a transformation in her appearance. She started taking better care of herself, regularly visiting the gym, and adopting a healthier lifestyle by eating right. Many people disregarded my concerns, but I had an unsettling feeling that something was amiss. I grew anxious, suspecting that she had found someone else and was putting in great effort solely for his sake. To quell this unease, I resorted to monitoring my wife. I subjected her entire life to scrutiny, from her daily commute to the contents of her phone. While this approach yielded no concrete results initially, everything fell into place after a couple of weeks. When summer arrived, my wife took our son to her mother's countryside home. I didn't mind, knowing how much our son cherished those visits. However, I sensed that something was awry when my wife mentioned that she wanted to have a serious conversation with me. I couldn't shake off the suspicion that there was something fishy going on. I became genuinely worried about what she might disclose to me, and unfortunately, my fears were justified. Natasha sat across from me, taking hold of my hands. With lowered eyes and a soft sigh, she confessed that she was in love. I desperately hoped it was all just a jest, but my wife continued. She had developed feelings for a colleague with whom she shared the same office. Their mutual attraction had been apparent from the start, but only now did they decide to embark on a more intimate relationship. My wife reassured me that there had been no infidelity, as she respected me too much to engage in such deceitful behavior behind my back. Peering into her eyes, I realized that the woman I cherished, my beloved wife, intended to leave me. I didn't hold her back. I simply asked her to bring our son to me more frequently and to be cautious. Natasha hugged me tightly, bidding me goodbye, and once again expressing remorse for everything that had transpired. Then, she quietly closed the door behind her. I won't deny it, her departure left me feeling wounded, as if I had been trampled upon and morally shattered. I experienced a deep sense of loneliness and discomfort, but I knew I had no right to detain her. Throughout our married life, I fought tirelessly for our relationship, doing everything within my power to ensure her comfort. I never indulged in nights out at bars with friends, never arrived home inebriated, and never let my eyes wander. This act of betrayal deeply undermined my mental well-being, leaving me perpetually irritable. As a result, I found myself engaging in frequent conflicts at work, ultimately leading to my decision to resign and seek a fresh start elsewhere. This time, I made the conscious choice to distance myself from the medical field in an attempt to forget the painful past. A comrade of mine kindly assisted in securing me a shift job at a construction site, which significantly improved my income. By then, Natasha and I were officially divorced, and I began to gradually adapt to life as a solitary individual. However, unexpectedly, she resurfaced on the horizon, her previous relationship having ended on a sour note. I welcomed her reappearance, driven by the fact that deep down, I still held love for her. Nevertheless, forgiveness eluded me, as I couldn't bring myself to grant her that privilege. My wife sought temporary shelter for our son with me while she searched for a rented apartment. Perhaps she entertained thoughts of reconciliation, but I made no such offer. I understood that it would lead to no good, and thus I refrained from even attempting it. One betrayal had inflicted enough damage upon me. Despite everything, I harbored genuine affection for her, recognizing that she would forever remain the mother of my child, and therefore, not a stranger to me. As our son reached the age of 15, he started visiting me more frequently, seeking the company of a male figure in his life. He had come to comprehend the complexities of our situation and accepted it with maturity.